You're familiar with the Lusty Argonian Maid, right? That infamous kind of body play that seems to just pop up everywhere in Tamriel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hard to miss it.
Well, what if I told you that the author, Crassius Curio, this Imperial noble known for his rather, well, scandalous personal life,
Uh-huh.
he was also apparently a fierce anti-corruption crusader
Uh,
within one of Tamriel's most notoriously crooked great houses.
okay, now that is a twist. It almost sounds too wild for fiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it's one of the many fascinating layers we're going to try and peel back today. Welcome, dear listener.
Today, we're embarking on a pretty comprehensive deep dive into that very eccentric imperial noble, Crassius Curio, and of course his most seminal and maybe most infamous work, the Lusty Argonian Maid.
Yep. We've got a wealth of sources here. We're going to explore not just the play itself, but the man behind it and the complex world he was living in.
So our journey today will first take us through who Crassius Curio really was. We'll get into the content and the, well, surprising creation of his scandalous play.
Then we'll explore its unexpected literary history, its lineage, you could say, and its incredible cultural resonance across Tamriel. It's everywhere.
And critically, we'll need to confront the challenging societal backdrop of slavery in Morrowind, because that lends an entirely new, profound, and maybe unsettling layer of meaning to this seemingly frivolous work.
Absolutely. It's a journey that moves from the body to the profound. And we promise you it's likely to be an eye-opener.
Okay, so let's begin. Let's step into the world of Crassius Curio himself, the eccentric noble. What kind of individual are we talking about here, beyond just the infamous reputation?
Well, Crassius Curio was, first and foremost, an imperial noble and a counselor of the great house Lalou.
Right, one of the big players in Morrowind.
Exactly. One of the most influential political and economic powers in the province. He lived in this very distinctive manor right there in the Lalou Plaza of Vivec City. You know, that massive sort of cantilevered city on Vivardenfell.
Yeah, amazing architecture.
It is. Now, while counselor might sound like a very respectable title, Curio's personality was, well, it was anything but conventionally aristocratic.
Huh.
That's putting it mildly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our sources describe him as wildly eccentric, overtly lecherous,
Mm.
and someone who seemed to just revel in shocking societal norms. He didn't just embrace his reputation, he totally owned it. He even called himself Uncle Crassius. He did. And for anyone who had the pleasure of interacting with him, he'd use these endearments like dumpling or sweet roll or sweet cake.
Regardless of who they were.
Yeah, regardless. It set quite a unique tone, for a powerful political figure. Almost immediately signaled his unconventional nature.
Definitely stands out.
It certainly did. And his reputation for, lavish tastes and what you can only really describe as scandalous personal conduct, it definitely preceded him throughout the province.
Were there rumors?
Oh, absolutely. Persistent rumors about his special friends, these individuals who would frequently visit his manor, and apparently shared striking resemblances to one another.
Oh, okay.
Which, as you can imagine, just fueled a ton of speculation and gossip about his private life and inclinations. This wasn't a man who shied away from public perception. He almost seemed to cultivate it.
And it wasn't just like a public face either. This overt indulgence was really part of his character and how he operated.
Seems like it, yeah. Even professionally. But what's truly fascinating, and maybe surprising, is that for all his aristocratic flamboyance, Curio's path to power actually started quite humbly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's quite the rags to riches story. Although, one that, once he reached the top of House Lalou, quickly sort of devolved into open debauchery.
Right. Tell me more about the rags part.
Okay, so before his big ascent within House Lalou, our sources indicate that Curio was reportedly near destitution. Really struggling.
Wow.
He sought shelter from the Arano family, their venerable Dunmer lineage, known for their traditional values, quiet influence, and he apparently fully expected to be turned away, given how desperate he was.
Yet they didn't.
No. Surprisingly, they welcomed him into their home. They offered him this kindness that he evidently never forgot.
Mm-hmm.
And this act of compassion, as we'll actually see later, it had a lasting impact on him. It shaped a very unexpected kind of loyalty.
Interesting. But once he started climbing the political ladder, he moved fast.
Oh yeah, very fast. By 3E 427, that's the Third Era, late Imperial period, basically Crassius Curio had become a House Lalou counselor.
And he wasted no time.
Absolutely no time. He immediately leveraged his newfound position and influence to openly indulge his sexuality, often in really public and transactional ways. The lore is remarkably clear on this point.
Right, like that infamous example during the Nerevarines quest.
Exactly. The quest to be named Hortator for House Lalu. For anyone listening who doesn't know, being named Hortator was this crucial step for the prophesied hero, the Nerevarine, to get political backing and unite the great houses against Dagoth-Ur.
A pretty big deal.
Huge deal. And Curio, totally true to character, would refuse his vote unless the Nerevarine either gave him a kiss.
A literal kiss.
A literal kiss, yeah.
Calm
to
down.
lips. Or paid a hefty sum of 1,000 drakes.
And this applied to anyone playing the Nerevarine.
Yep. He'd propose this, we should stress, regardless of the Nerevarines' gender or race. It's a pretty unprecedented and, frankly, audacious demand for political support.
Unbelievable. And it didn't stop there, did it? Didn't he have other requirements?
He did. He also notoriously required individuals who were seeking sponsorship into House Lalu itself to, well, undress for him.
Get sponsored into the house.
Yeah. And again, the sources confirm, regardless of their gender. Imagine that as a bureaucratic hurdle.
Wow. Talk about setting a rather unique standard for entry into one of the most powerful great houses in Morrowind. Definitely not your typical interview process.
Not at all. But what's truly fascinating here, and this is where we get that real insight into his character, is the striking paradox that Crassius Curio embodied. This immorality versus integrity thing.
Right. Explain that paradox.
Despite all this undeniably immoral, lecherous behavior, he stood out. He was one of only 2 House Lalu counselors who maintained absolutely no association with the Kimona Tong.
The criminal organization.
Exactly. The notoriously criminal, xenophobic organization deeply embedded within Morrowind, especially House Lalu.
Okay, that is a huge deal, especially when you think about how corrupt House Halalu was known to be back then.
Absolutely rampant, widespread corruption. Our sources really highlight that the Kimona Tong's kingpin, a guy named Orves Dren,
Yeah, I know that name.
he held significant, almost total sway over the council. He effectively manipulated other counselors like Valanda Omani and Navana Yules, basically reducing them to his puppets, make sure their votes always aligned with his illicit enterprises.
So, for Curio to be completely clean in that environment, to draw that line against organized crime, it says something, doesn't it, about his weirdly specific moral compass.
It absolutely does. And furthermore, our research shows that Curio's own personal quests, the tasks he'd actually give you if you were playing the game,
Yeah.
they often involve actively working to expose and end corruption, particularly corruption linked to this one specific individual, Odril Helvi, in the town of Caldera.
Who was Helvi?
He was a notoriously corrupt ranking official within the Imperial Legion, actually, and an associate of the Kimona Tong. Curio would discreetly offer rewards for information on Helvi's dodgy activities.
So he used you to investigate.
Pretty much. He'd even guide you to subtly thwart illicit schemes, like swapping fraudulent land deeds to stop land grabs, or stepping in when Helvi was unjustly collecting rent from poor citizens.
So despite his own personal failings.
Exactly. Despite his deep personal vices and eccentricities, he seemed genuinely committed to upholding this kind of twisted form of integrity within the bigger, often rotten political system of his great house.
It really challenges those simple good versus evil ideas, doesn't it?
It does. Curio's story suggests that moral compasses can be strangely calibrated, pointing away from systemic corruption, even when personal conduct is, well, far from virtuous.
It's a really fascinating dichotomy. You'd almost expect someone so overtly indulgent to be easily bought off, right? Just another pawn for the Kimona Tong.
You would think so. But he clearly had a line, and he stuck to it, at least when it came to organized crime and protecting the integrity, however flawed he saw it, of his house.
And speaking of his unique indulgences and maybe his artistic expression, that brings us perfectly to his most famous literary contribution.
Ah, yes. The Lusty Argonian Maid.
The legend itself.
The genesis of a scandal. A true Tamrielic classic. By that same year, 3E427, Crassius Curio was apparently diligently working to complete this raunchy, erotic play.
And it's a work that, despite its origins, has just echoed through Tamriel for centuries, hasn't it? It's become this staple of literary and, well, popular culture.
Absolutely. It just keeps popping up.
And the play's central premise is, well, it's about as provocative and as Crassius Curio as you possibly expect.
Pretty much sums it up. It revolves around an Argonian maid, an Argonian being one of the reptilian beast folk from Black Marsh,
Right.
named Lifts Her Tail, and her imperial master, Crassius Curio.
And it's not exactly subtle about who the master is based on, is it?
Not at all. Our sources highlight that Crassius Curio, the master character, shares many unmistakable characteristics with Crassius Curio himself.
So it's basically self-insertion or like playful parody.
Could be either or both. It definitely invites that reading. It's almost like this fantastical, thinly veiled autobiography, just brimming with the author's own desires and maybe a sense of self-aware humor about it all.
Given his public persona, that definitely adds to the notoriety, doesn't it? And the scandalous appeal.
For sure. The play itself is consistently described across our sources as bawdy, delightful, and filled with innuendo.
We should probably give our listeners some examples, right? Bring it to life a bit.
Definitely. We should dive into some of that iconic dialogue.
Okay, get ready, folks, because these lines are legendary in Tamriel culture. From Act 4, Scene 3rd, we have the famous "Polish my spear" exchange.
Ah, yes. Classic.
The maid lifts her tail, exclaims, "But it is huge! It could take me all night."
And Crassius Curio, the master, reassures her with that classic line, "Plenty of time, my sweet. Plenty of time."
The innuendo there is, shall we say, not exactly subtle, leaves very little to the imagination.
Not much, no. And the play continues in a similar vein in Act 7, Scene 2. And this act was actually added in later editions of the play, which shows how the work itself kind of evolved over time.
Oh, interesting. What happens in that one?
Here we find the equally iconic "need the loaf" exchange. Lifts her tail expresses concern about her oven. She asks, "My goodness, that's quite a loaf, but however shall it fit my oven?"
Oh, my.
And Crassius Curio replies with playful reassurances about satisfying the mistress's cravings later, again concluding with that now familiar, almost tagline-like refrain.
Let me guess. Plenty of time, my sweet. Plenty of time.
You got it.
So it's not just a one-off joke. It's this recurring theme, a signature phrase almost, framing these really suggestive exchanges.
Exactly. But despite the catchy, provocative dialogue and Curio's clear vision for it, he actually faced some very real practical challenges in getting the sexually charged work onto the stage.
Yeah, I bet. Finding actors must have been tough.
Extremely tough. Because of its explicit content and, the social taboos of the time, he had considerable trouble finding actors willing to perform the roles, especially for Lifts Her Tail.
So who did he end up getting?
That's right. Our sources detail his struggles. He ultimately had to settle for this performer named Marcel Morard.
Marcel Morard. Any good?
Well, he's explicitly described in the lore as horrible.
Oh, dear.
And down on his luck. Apparently, Morard only agreed to take on the controversial role because he was just desperate for work.
Wow. That really says something about how taboo the play was, doesn't it? That even a horrible actor would hesitate and only do it out of need.
It really does. It highlights that fine line
Sure.
Curio's walking between artistic expression and, outright scandal.
Yet, despite these big casting challenges and the apparently terrible performance from his lead actor, Curio still had really high hopes for it.
Incredibly high aspirations. He truly believed it would stir the soul, touch the heart, and rouse the masses from their slumber.
That's quite a grand, almost philosophical vision for what is, let's be honest, mostly a body comedy.
It is. It's also interesting to note, too, that while Crassius Curio is the credited author within the Elder Scrolls lore,
Yeah.
the actual in-game book, in our world, was written by Mark Nelson, apparently based on brainstorm ideas from other developers at Bethesda.
Huh. So even the creation of this fictional work has these layers of real-world collaboration mirroring the fictional process. That's kind of neat.
That meta detail is fascinating, isn't it? Shows how real-world creative processes can sometimes mirror the fictional ones, adding another dimension to the lore.
Definitely.
Now, moving beyond Curio's direct authorship, let's explore the broader literary lineage and cultural resonance of the Lusty Argonian Maid, because it turns out it's far more than just one man's scandalous play.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Where does this go?
Well, first off, Curio wasn't just a writer. Our sources taint him as a great patron of the arts, someone who actively commissioned artists for murals, to decorate his manor and other public spaces.
Ah, so he supported other artists too.
Yes. And the Lusty Argonian Maid wasn't his only writing gig either. He also penned another play, apparently well-received, called The Dance of the Three-Legged Guar.
Yeah, three-legged guar. What's a guar again?
It's a common reptilian pack animal in Morrowind, sort of like a big lizard used for carrying goods.
Gotcha. So he clearly had a genuine artistic streak, beyond just writing the scandalous stuff.
He certainly did. But here's the really astonishing part. It comes from a discovery made by Tellinger the Artificer.
Tellinger, I know that name. A scholar, right. Second era.
That's him. Renowned scholar, known for his groundbreaking research into Tamrielic history and culture. According to Tellinger's meticulous research, the Lusty Argonian Maid is not an original creation by Crassius Curio at all.
Wait, what? It's not original?
No. Rather, it's just the latest iteration of a long line of tales that have been told and retold across Tamriel for ages, passed down through oral tradition, evolving with each retelling.
So Curio just adapted it, like taking an old folk song and putting his own words to it? That's kind of wild. Does that, like, diminish his creative input?
I wouldn't say diminish, necessarily. Tellinger found that these variations, although they differ in title, character, specific setting, they all share the same underlying structure and plot.
Which is?
Essentially. A female innocent succumbs to the charms of a dominant, often married, male character, usually through a series of witty, innuendo-laden exchanges.
Yeah.
It raises this really profound question about storytelling itself, doesn't it? What makes this specific narrative trope so enduring, so popular across such diverse cultures and eras within Tamriel?
Yeah, why does that story keep getting told?
It seems to point to some deep, recurring fascination with certain universal human and mers and beast folk desires and power dynamics, endlessly reinterpreted. It's really a testament to the adaptive power of narrative. It shows how even the bawdiest humor can tap into these deep cultural veins.
That's incredible. So it's not just a one-off dirty joke book. It's actually this cultural phenomenon woven into the fabric of Tamrielic storytelling, transcending centuries, even racial boundaries.
Pretty much, yeah.
Can you give us some examples of these other versions Tellinger found? I'm really curious how different cultures put their spin on it.
Certainly. Tellinger found quite a few, gathered from traveling bards, ancient texts, across different regions and races. For instance, there's the Lusty Bosmeri of Valenwood.
Okay, the Wood Elf version.
Right. Then there's the Khajiit variant, 2 moons for sugar.
Khajiit makes sense with the sugar reference.
Exactly. The Brittonic version is titled Shornhelm's Lusty Orifice.
Wow, okay. Subtle.
Hey, yeah. Britons being that human-elven hybrid race known for chivalry and magic. Then we have the Redguard version, the Sandy Spear of Alik'r.
From Hammerfell, the Desert Warriors. Makes sense.
And finally, the Nordic version, the Maiden's Tight Hold, from the hardy, often stoic humans of Skyrim.
Shornhelm's Lusty Orifice. That title really sticks with you. It really underscores how these different cultural takes suggest this shared fascination, right? Themes of desire, wit, suggestive humor, all adapted to local customs. The imagery in each title clearly pulls from that specific culture's landscape.
Precisely. It's like a universal language, even in its bawdiness, just filtered through these unique cultural lenses.
Did Tellinger figure out where the original came from?
His research actually credited a legendary Khajiit bard, known only as Tale Singer, with inventing the core, maiden with bread, male with spear, format that kind of defines all these variations.
Ah, so Curio borrowed, maybe unknowingly, from a Khajiit master storyteller.
Seems likely. So Curio's borrowing, while uncredited in his version, was clearly based on this foundational narrative that had already proven incredibly successful and adaptable.
And the story itself changed over time, too, right? Didn't they add things, like the spear sometimes being identified as Hircine's spear?
Yes. That's a fascinating detail. Hircine being the Daedric Prince of the Hunt, known for primal urges, the pursuit. Tellinger actually observed that this specific edition, identifying the spear with Hircine, would get laughs from even the most, sullen audiences.
Huh, why?
It highlights how shared cultural touchstones, even somewhat obscure ones like Daedric lore, get woven into the evolving oral tradition. It makes the jokes land better, tapping into a deeper understanding, or maybe just recognition, from the audience.
That makes sense. It's like an inside joke almost.
Kind of, yeah. And what's truly compelling here is Tellinger's big conclusion. Stories of this specific type have always existed and would continue to be told throughout history.
No.
It underscores their timeless appeal, their adaptive nature, speaks to something fundamental about storytelling that goes beyond specific characters or settings, reflects enduring human and mer and beast folk nature, perhaps.
And the Maid's echoes, they resonate beyond just Curio's play, too, right?
Yeah.
There are other similar stories.
Oh, yes. Our sources reference other similar literary works that draw from this tradition. There's The Lusty Argonian Maid, a song, which is exactly what it sounds like, a musical version.
Get you.
Probably. And then there's Elia Urdane's The Sultry Argonian Bard, V1. This one features a character named Croontail and has similar innuendo, but involving musical instruments instead of spears and bread.
Huh. Okay, so the theme just keeps popping up in different forms. Plays, songs, other stories. It's a genuine recurring motif in Tamrielic culture. a narrative touchstone.
Absolutely. And the pervasive nature of this narrative, in all its forms, brings us neatly to the social impact and the enduring popularity of the play itself across the entire continent of Tamriel.
It's kind of astonishing, isn't it, despite being so raunchy and apparently starring a horrible lead actor, Marcel Morard.
The one who only took the job out of desperation, yeah.
Right. Despite all that, the Lusty Argonian Maid somehow captivated a Tamriel-wide audience.
Yes, our sources really emphasize its incredible popularity across wildly diverse demographics. We're talking men and mer, so all the human and elven races, all the way to Goblinkin.
Goblinkin, like actual goblins and reeklings and stuff.
That's what the term implies, yes, the more primitive, less civilized beast folk, which suggests an almost universal cross-cultural appreciation for its specific brand of humor and innuendo.
That's amazing. What is it about that humor that transcends race and social divides like that?
It's hard to say for sure, but it indicates that certain elements of wit, or maybe just suggestive comedy, truly resonate widely. Quite remarkable for a play with this particular content.
And Tellinger, the artificer, the scholar, he didn't just look back, right? He predicted its future, too.
He did. He had this prescient prediction that the play would outlive its humble beginnings as a fireside amusement and become choice, frivolous entertainment for generations to come.
And he was totally right.
Resoundingly confirmed. Its continued presence, the references across various Elder Scrolls games, spanning multiple eras. It solidifies its status as a true cultural touchstone within Tamriel.
It's one of those bits of lore that just keeps showing up, isn't it? Like, you find the book on a dusty shelf, or someone mentions it in dialogue.
Or it even inspires quests sometimes. It just has this remarkable staying power that speaks volumes about its enduring appeal, whatever the reason.
And beyond just its general fame, there's that fascinating story about a specific copy, right? An autographed first edition.
Yes. Remember Crassius Curio's humble beginnings? How he was near destitute and the Arano family took him in?
Yeah, the kindness he never forgot.
Well, Curio, showing this rare touch of sentimentality, apparently gifted this specific autographed first edition copy to the Arano family as a token of gratitude.
That's actually kind of sweet. Shows a different side to him.
It does. And that rare copy, this piece of both literary history and personal gratitude, it eventually found its way into the first edition bookstore in the Imperial city.
The big capital city, a major literary hub.
Exactly. But his journey didn't stop there. In 4E201, that's the Fourth Era, about 200 years after the events of Morrowind where Curio wrote it, it was finally reclaimed by the Arano family. By then, they had relocated way up to Raven Rock and Solstheim, that remote island north of Morrowind.
Wow, so they got it back after all that time.
They did, which just demonstrates the enduring value and the personal significance of the work beyond just its literary merit. It became this cherished family heirloom.
It's not just a book. It's a piece of their family history, a memento of this really unusual but clearly impactful kindness from a deeply eccentric guy.
Precisely. And here's the truly weird detail that just cements its timelessness.
Go on.
Curio's work, including The Lusty Argonian Maid, was apparently among the books transported through time to the Second Era by the Library of Andalul.
Wait, transported through time? How does that work?
For those listeners deep into the lore, the Library of Andalul had this ability to literally transport texts across entire eras. It's not just a neat trick, it underscores just how fundamentally significant the Lusty Argonian Maid is seen to be within the lore. It literally transcends time and space in Tamriel's history.
It's like the universe itself decided this play needed to exist everywhere and always.
Something like that. And this enduring, almost cosmic presence of the play. It brings us to a really critical and honestly often uncomfortable part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We absolutely need to integrate the underlying societal context of slavery in Morrowind. Because once you view the Lusty Argonian Maid through that chilling historical lens, its meaning, its power dynamics, its implications, they change dramatically.
Right. That's a crucial point we have to address. The uncomfortable truth of Tamrielic slavery is that it was historically pretty widespread, wasn't it? Though maybe in different forms.
Yes, very widespread across the continent, though forms and justifications varied. Our sources detail how it ranged from, enslaving defeated enemies after wars to desperate parents actually selling their own children into servitude.
God, really?
Yeah. And organized raids, particularly by the elves of Morrowind raiding into the neighboring province of Black Marsh, specifically to capture Argonians for forced labor.
Argonians specifically.
It's vital to understand the traditional power dynamics and the justifications used here. Historically, within Tamriel, there was this sort of traditional permission for elven races to enslave humans, orcs, and beast folk,
Commission based on what?
based on their own cultural beliefs and perceived superiority, essentially. Specifically, the Dunmer, with their ancient customs and ancestor worship, often viewed all beast peoples like Argonians and Khajiit, and sometimes humans too, as mere animals or domesticated chattels.
Basically
Property.
Property.
To be owned and used. And to be absolutely clear, among all the enslaved peoples in Morrowind, Argonians were the most commonly and often most brutally enslaved. This is a crucial piece of context for Curio's play, featuring an Argonian maid.
Definitely changes the reading. What's even more jarring, though, is Morrowind's unique legal position on this, isn't it? Slavery was illegal elsewhere in the Empire by the Third Era.
That's right. Illegal throughout the rest of the Empire, but explicitly protected by law within Morrowind.
How did they get away with that?
This protection was a huge, highly contentious concession made by the Empire's founder, Tiber Septim, way back when the armistice was signed in 2E896.
The agreement that let Morrowind join the Empire but keep its autonomy?
Exactly. Septim acknowledged the Dunmer's absolute insistence on slavery as an ancient right, something deeply embedded in their society and economy. So while the Empire generally pushed for abolition elsewhere, it made this massive exception for Morrowind, which really highlights the immense political power of the great houses and their deep-seated traditions.
Were there any shifts over time?
Our sources note a subtle shift by Imperial times, yeah. Many Dunmers apparently started avoiding keeping human slaves, maybe to avoid offending the Empire directly. But Nordic-featured slaves from Skyrim remain common, especially in northern Morrowind for mine and farm labor.
So, less human enslavement maybe, but still a firm grip on beast folk.
Definitely. Especially Argonians and Khajiit.
And House Lalu, Curio's own house, they were involved in this.
Undeniably complicit. Their extensive plantations, places like the infamous Unveil and Dren plantations, frequently utilized slaves for farm labor, growing sultries, other crops. It was a big part of their economic engine.
But wasn't Halalu seen as slightly different from the other houses on this?
There's an important nuance there, yes. And it highlights the complexity of House Hlalu. While they certainly benefited from slavery by the late Third Era, our sources suggest it was considered uncommon in Hlalu districts compared to other houses.
Especially compared to, say, House Dress.
Exactly. House Dress basically built their entire power structure and immense wealth on the mass abduction and trafficking of Argonians and Khajiit. They treated them as primary commodities. So Hlalu's situation suggests a potential, maybe slow, shift in their practices, perhaps influenced by their closer ties to the Empire, which, as we said, was generally abolitionist and put subtle pressure on them.
But even with that nuance, change did start happening, right? Through abolitionist movements.
Yes, the groundwork for significant change was being laid by powerful abolitionist movements like the Twin Lamps.
They operated underground.
Yes, a secret network. They gained considerable support from some influential families on Vivardenfell, including, remarkably, the daughter of Duke Vidam Dren, a grandmaster of House Hlalu itself.
Wow. Even within the ruling elite.
It shows these internal divisions, these nascent moral stirrings, even at the top.
And this pressure eventually led to real political action.
It did. This internal pressure, combined with external political maneuvering, led to a truly significant turning point. King Hlalu Helseth, a very cunning, pragmatic ruler, made what's described as a shrewd political maneuver in 3E430.
What did he do?
He formed an alliance with House Dress, the very house most reliant on slavery, and then publicly renounced the slave trade.
Whoa! Why would Dress agree to that?
It was definitely politically motivated on Helseth's part, designed to consolidate his own power, gain imperial favor. But regardless of the motive, the action itself generally destroyed the Morrowind slave trade, according to our sources.
But that must have caused huge backlash.
Oh, immense cost. It provoked a bloody civil war with the more traditional conservative great houses, Indoril and Redoran. They saw abolition as this huge affront to their ancient rights and traditions. So yeah, a vital historical context for understanding the social fabric of Morrowind at the time.
Okay, so, given all of this chilling historical backdrop of institutionalized slavery, particularly the brutal enslavement of Argonians, we have to ask again, how does the Lusty Argonian Maid, with its themes of an imperial master and an Argonian maid joking around with body innuendo, how does it resonate when you view it through that lens? It fundamentally changes the interpretation, doesn't it?
It profoundly does. It's the critical question, really. It prompts some deep reflection. Does the play, despite its humor, despite its seeming frivolity, does it inadvertently trivialize? or normalize the deeply entrenched power dynamics and injustices of slavery, especially the enslavement of Argonians who are so readily depicted in the Maid in this scenario.
That power imbalance between the Imperial master, Crassius Curio, and the Argonian Maid lifts her tail. In that specific historical context, it takes on a much, much darker feel, more uncomfortable.
Absolutely. It's not just flirting anymore, is it? It's framed by this horrific reality.
And what about its popularity? What does the widespread love for such a play, remember, popular even among goblinkin, what does that reveal about societal attitudes towards enslaved peoples back then in Tamriel?
That's a really difficult question. It's one thing for it to be written, maybe as some kind of satire, who knows, but for it to be embraced so universally across all demographics, it makes you wonder about the broader social consciousness, or maybe lack thereof.
Does art like this just, reflect society's values and biases, or does it actually play a role in shaping them?
That's the core debate, isn't it? By making uncomfortable realities like owning sentient beings more palatable, even amusing, through humor, does it normalize exploitation? Does it maybe even contribute in some small way to the dehumanization of the people?
These aren't easy questions.
Not at all. There are rarely simple answers, but they are absolutely essential to consider when you engage with any cultural product, fictional or otherwise, that exists within such complex and often brutal historical frameworks. It really forces us to confront that uncomfortable relationship between entertainment and societal norms.
Wow, yeah. That's a lot to chew on, and a truly, truly thought-provoking way to end this part of the discussion. We've really peeled back some serious layers today.
We certainly have.
We started with Crassius Curio himself, that fascinating contradiction, an eccentric, lecherous noble who was also this staunch anti-corruption crusader within a deeply corrupt great house. His life just offers this profound insight into the human capacity for paradox, really.
And then we dove into his most famous work, The Lusty Argonian Maid. We explored its body content, the challenges Curio faced bringing it to life, learned that while Mark Nelson wrote the book for us, in the lore, Crassius Curio penned this infamous piece, absolutely imbuing it with his own unique persona.
And we discovered its surprising literary lineage, realizing it wasn't even original, but part of this long-standing oral tradition across Tamriel. Countless variations, a fascinating evolution. Its pan-Tamrielic popularity, even crossing species boundaries, highlighted its universal appeal, revealed something fundamental about storytelling, maybe. Certain desires, power dynamics, just endlessly reinterpreted.
And finally, we integrated that profound and frankly disturbing historical context of slavery in Morrowind, that uncomfortable truth about Argonians being enslaved, even by members of House Lalu. It forces us to completely reevaluate the play. It adds this challenging dimension to how we interpret it, making us question what such art, however humorous it seems on the surface, might inadvertently reflect, or maybe even perpetuate, about societal power dynamics and the devaluation of certain peoples.
Right. And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to maybe ponder long after this deep dive. How do we grapple with art, even popular art, seemingly frivolous art that exists within these morally complex historical frameworks, or even fictional ones? Can humor and entertainment ever be tools for subversion, maybe exposing truths in a way that's easier to handle? Or do they always risk inadvertently upholding problematic norms, making uncomfortable realities just too easy to swallow? And what does our own engagement with works like The Lusty Argonian Maid reveal about how we process uncomfortable truths, both in fictional worlds like Tamriel and maybe even in our own world?